I love movies, and I've been lucky enough to make a few in my lifetime. I've also seen how movies have changed over the decades, and there's one particular era of filmmaking that I feel gets overlooked, and those would be the Hollywood blockbusters from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. We all know that cinema ended in the year 2002 when the first Spider-Man film swung into theaters. So I'd like to take this opportunity to explore the great films that showcase the final golden age of Hollywood. I'm Martin Scorsese, and this is Bedazzled. A note to the viewer. This program contains what some might consider to be spoilers, but I guarantee that nothing can spoil this perfect film. This is merely an enhancement, and my own opinion. I've always been interested in good and evil, the holy versus the profane. And in fact, before I wanted to make movies, I was actually studying to become a priest. And I've explored this theme many times in my own films, the seduction of evil, or a man sacrificing his morals in the pursuit of pleasure or power. But I always feel like I've fallen short. But one film that I think excels at this is the year 2000's Bedazzled, starring Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. But the story of a man selling his soul to Satan is not a new one, and it actually dates back to the very beginning of cinema's history. The most famous of all these stories is Faust, the indelible story of a man who sells his soul to the devil for knowledge and power, but quickly becomes disillusioned by his choice. And here is the 1926 silent film classic by F.W. Murnau, the director of Nosferatu. And let's not forget the genesis of this idea, which would be the snake in the Garden of Eden, playing a trick on Adam and Eve, leading to their banishment from paradise. And then this theme was explored again by the Brits in 1967. Here is Dudley Moore and Peter Cook in the Stanley Donen directed Bedazzled. Now, Donen is a legendary director behind such films as Singin' in the Rain, Funny Face, and Charade. And you may not realize this, but I actually presented Stanley Donen with his Lifetime Achievement Oscar at the Academy Awards in 1997. While he's directed such big films, few talk about this very hip retelling of Faust, set in swinging 60s London. Dudley Moore plays a lovesick fry cook who is secretly in love with one of his co-workers, a waitress at Wimpy Burger. And Peter Cook plays the devil, who takes advantage of this desire and grants him 7 wishes to help him get closer to his fantasy. And it was only a matter of time before Hollywood did their own version of Faust. Remakes had become very popular in the 90s. Films like Flubber, which was adapted from The Absent-Minded Professor, or 101 Dalmatians, which was a live-action remake of the Disney classic animated film, or Godzilla, based on the 1954 Japanese classic. I even did my own remake in the 90s of Cape Fear. And Brendan Fraser had already starred in 2 remakes. One was Mrs. Winterbourne and The Mummy, based on the Universal monster classic.
Let's go someplace quiet so we can talk.
Okay. Who are you?
I'm the devil.
Bedazzled is a sumptuous fantasy in which I have seen countless times. The absurdist, hallucinatory quality of the imagery has stuck with me for years. And it's helmed by one of the great comedy directors of the 20th century, Harold Ramis, who's made films such as Caddyshack, National Lampoon's Vacation, and Groundhog's Day. Brendan Fraser was a new leading man in Hollywood. His breakout role in 1992's Encino Man caught the attention of the industry.
Standing go!
And now we get to 1994, a landmark year for American cinema. We have Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, but my favorite film of that year is actually an underrated comedy classic called Airheads, starring Brendan Fraser. From Michael Lehman, director of Heathers, this Brendan Fraser-led ensemble is an underrated gem. It co-stars Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi. It's about a failing band called the Lone Rangers, who take over a radio station to get their song heard on the airwaves. George of the Jungle became a big hit in 1997, and then The Mummy made him a bona fide movie star. For his next film, Brendan Fraser would lend his star power to a thought-provoking parable with the age-old theme of be careful what you wish for. We learn everything we need to know about Elliot in the very opening sequence of this film. He's a pushover and lovesick, and instead of showing us these attributes, they literally spell them out on the screen for us. This overt storytelling technique is borrowed from the original film as well. This is how we're introduced to Dudley Moore's plight in the original.
For 6 years now, ever since you came to Wimpy's, I've been in love with you. I only live to hear your voice.
1 cheeseburger, 1 shanty, 1 portion French fries.
Dear God, I would give anything to have that girl in my life.
I mean, couldn't they have just shown it? Wasn't her slow-motion entrance into the bar enough? No. Harold Ramis takes a bold approach and makes it obvious. He ensures that the audience will never be left behind during this picture. This is a bold and refreshing approach to storytelling. You know, the age-old thing is show and don't tell. But what's interesting about Bedazzled is it's almost like a postmodern masterpiece. All it does is tell, it does not show at all. And I kind of love that about it. I mean, this is the year 2000. This is the same year as Memento. You know, this confusing story told completely out of order. It's not for me. I like a film that's more simple. Elizabeth Hurley was riding the success of Austin Powers and perfectly cast as seduction incarnate. While there was the suggestive title of Josef von Sternberg's 1935 classic, The Devil is a Woman, starring Marlene Dietrich, movie audiences had yet to actually see the devil portrayed by an attractive woman. We had seen recent portrayals of the devil from very masculine performers, such as Bob De Niro in Angel Heart, Jack Nicholson in The Witches of Eastwick, and Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. But this was a fresh approach for Beelzebub. And costume designer Dina Appel found ways to increasingly heighten Hurley's sex appeal throughout the film. Upon watching the film again recently, I realized that there were 19 different costume changes for Elizabeth Hurley in this film alone. And this was Dina Appel's second collaboration with Hurley. She also designed the costumes for Austin Powers. Elliot will be granted 7 wishes in exchange for his soul. He's hesitant to sign the contract, but his unrequited love for Allison wins out in the end. If he ever wants to terminate his current wish and start over, he can use this little beeper and type in 666 to get himself back to reality. Funny little detail here, the filing cabinets in the office are actually cold lockers that you would find in a morgue. A great production design detail by Rick Heinrichs. And with this, it cleanly closes our first act and propels us into the comedic genius that is Elliot's 7 wishes. Now, what follows is a series of inventive and eclectic vignettes that show how each one of his wishes goes awry. And for each wish, we're going to focus on a different aspect of the filmmaking process. And we're going to learn that the devil always has a trick up her sleeve. For his first wish, let's talk about performance and how good Brendan Fraser really is in this film. He is unrecognizable as a Latin drug lord. Each of his co-workers from his real life will also have cameos in all of the wish sequences. He's showing great comedic timing, as well as linguistic chops.
Realmente estoy hablando español. Hola Juan, hola Esteban, ¿dónde esta es la biblioteca? Esta es la casa de mi tía. No, gracias, soy alérgico a los crustáceos.
He not only speaks Spanish,
Ay,
muy bien,
es cocaína.
but later he speaks Russian in this sequence.
Привет, ребята, в чем дело? Отлично, я еще и русский знаю. Ни хера себе!
Why the Academy failed to recognize this performance is beyond me.
¿Cómo pudiste hacerme esto?
Let's take a moment here to highlight Frances O'Connor, who plays Allison, the love interest. She is also flexing her acting muscles by performing this ferocious scene in Espanol as well.
Si me volves a tocar de nuevo, me voy a vomitar en tu cara hasta que me muera. ¿Y sabes qué? Me voy a morir feliz porque si no tendré que mirar tu puta estampa.
This sets up a very interesting, reoccurring punchline, this first wish. You see, he wishes for something, but then the devil finds a way to complicate it. screw it up for him.
You wish that the two of you were married. You didn't say anything about her loving you.
I wish I were the most sensitive man in the world.
Right.
And I want her to love me.
This wish has a great homage to the original film.
Dudley, Peter!
When Elizabeth Hurley walks up on the beach, she is running with two Dobermans, Peter and Dudley. These are the writers and stars of the original Bedazzled.
Are you okay?
And there are many sequences in the movie that are actually direct adaptations from the original that it's remaking.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Easy.
In the second wish, it turns out that Elliot is now too sensitive.
No, wait! No, why don't you want to stay here with me?
You want to know why, Elliot? Because you're just too sensitive. I'm about to go out of my mind here.
And repels his love into the arms of another man. This film is really about Elliot learning to be his own man and learning what is actually attractive in a partner. Let's look at wish number 3, the basketball star wish. This film was shot by Bill Pope, who had recently been the director of photography for the first Matrix film. His expertise and wizardry would come in handy with some of the more complicated photographic effects for Bedazzled. I mean, just look at the seamless green screening and forced perspective in this sequence, where Fraser is a larger-than-life basketball player. These effects expand what The Matrix was able to achieve only a year prior. And let's also highlight the amazing practical effects that are in this movie. This is my favorite scene in the whole film by far. When the sweat drips down from his head during the interview after the game. I mean, just look how much sweat is... It's comical how much sweat is just coming off of his head. There's no way that much sweat would really come off of a human being.
Number 1! Yeah!
Allison is also reincarnated as a reporter who is very interested in Elliot's character, sexually.
I just kept thinking how unbelievably big your ego must be after a game like that.
Oh, not that big, really.
But he unfortunately didn't wish for any brains, so he is a little slow to pick up on her suggestions. He also didn't account for the shortcoming in another vital organ.
Oh!
A small penis.
What the hell?
He even has trouble remembering the failsafe code for his beeper. It's pure comedy. If you watch this film as many times as I have, then you can see an interesting bit of foreshadowing in the first act, when Elliot first meets the devil in the bar. There's actually a basketball game playing on the TV behind him. After each failed wish, he is catapulted back into reality and witnessing the devil doing something mischievous.
Now what are you doing?
He doesn't seem to learn his lesson and just plows ahead with his next wish.
I want to be smart. No, I want to be really smart. And I want to be witty and sophisticated, charming. I want to know everything about everything. And I want Allison to fall absolutely head over heels in love with me.
In this sequence, Fraser again shows his ability to toss around his dialogue like a loquacious word salad.
Oh, same old, same old. It's a critical deconstruction of the neo-romantic period in art and literature from the political and economic perspective, the Industrial Revolution in France, England, and Germany. I can't imagine who reads this stuff.
This is the longest stretch of time he's experienced success in terms of Allison actually being attracted to him. He's a famous writer. He has a big penis. And Allison is eating out of his palm. All right, let's pause here for a second. Let's just guess what's going to happen. How is this wish going to get messed up? Okay? It could be anything. He's rich, he's famous. The girl is really into him at this point. So what could go wrong? Let's watch and find out.
What the hell is going on, Mary?
Who are you?
Don't play games with me, Mr. Richards. I'm in no mood.
Oh my God. I can prove to you that I am not gay. Kiss me. I'm gay. Well, thanks for dropping by.
Good night.
That's right. He's a homosexual. So while he's rich and famous and the girl's into him, he's not sexually attracted to her. That's quite a big complication. A lot of people think this is in poor taste and is a very dated joke. But if you really think about it, the film is suggesting that Satan is real. And if it's suggesting that Satan is real, it's suggesting that the Bible is truth. And we all know what the Bible says about homosexuality. So Elliot is, once again, transported back to reality, and the devil is in another kinky outfit. Now, this isn't a cheap gimmick to get horny young men to watch the film. It actually serves a plot function. She keeps trying to seduce Elliot, but he is hopelessly dedicated to Allison. It's an obstacle that he must continually reject in order to reach his ultimate, noble goal of a serious, romantic, monogamous relationship with Allison. At this point in the film, he is actually starting to learn his lesson. He decides that wishing for his own end is futile, and he wants to do something altruistic, something good for all mankind. Eventually, the humor of the film graduates beyond the zeitgeist of its time, and the next wish actually goes back in time. And we have a pretty funny historical bit starring the 16th President of the United States. I'm sure you've noticed by now how impressive all of the makeup effects have been for each sequence. And while this is a hilarious punchline, this sequence contains my only gripe with the film.
We're going to a play?
I think you'll find it quite amusing. It's called Our American Cousin.
You know, I think I've already seen it. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I have.
I don't think you've seen it, sir. It's an entirely new play.
Really? I think I know how it ends anyway.
This was in fact the play he attended when he was assassinated. But in fact, John Wilkes Booth had seen the play many times and timed the bullet with a particular funny line in the play, so he could mask the sound of the gunshot underneath the laughter of the audience. Elliot realizes his inevitable fate to be assassinated and quickly gets out of the wish. Sensing the audience's wearing patience with this repeating gag, this is the shortest vignette in the whole movie. We are now entering Act 3 of the picture. Elliot goes back to his normal life for a while. A changed man, though. We can look at his appearance, now compared to when the film started. He once had those big nerdy glasses and a members-only jacket. Now he sports a cool denim jacket and isn't taking any shit from his coworkers.
Nice talking to you, Bob.
Elliot thinks he's on his 6th wish, but the devil explains that his first wish of a Big Mac and Coke, which he had to pay for, was the first of his 7 wishes. The devil will always trick you. He decides to consult the other side of the spiritual continuum and goes into a church where he finds a priest played by Brian Doyle Murray. And Murray has had a cameo in almost all of Ramis's films.
I need to talk to God.
And then the film climaxes with Elliot's 7th and final wish. Here is where we get to show off the prowess of the visual effects department. But when Elliot wishes for Allison to have a happy life,
I wish that Allison has a happy life!
Oh, God.
it voids the contract. It's a pretty good story. So now that Elliot has learned his lesson, and he's the master of his own destiny, he finally builds up the courage and asks out the girl of his dreams, Allison.
I'm seeing someone.
Oh. Well, of course you are.
I found it ironic and sad that he wishes for her to have a great life, but that doesn't include him as a romantic partner in it. But Elliot gets the surprise of his life when he comes home to find that a new woman has moved in next door, and that she looks exactly like Allison. The other thing I love about Bedazzled is that it's a great San Francisco film, following in the footsteps of such classics as Vertigo, Bullet, and Mrs. Doubtfire. 20th Century Fox had high hopes for Bedazzled, but it did come in second place that weekend to an unexpected comedy hit, a simple Meet the In-Laws story, Meet the Parents, starring Bob De Niro. And unfortunately, Bedazzled is a little bit left behind to history. And we got the birth of the Ben Stiller era after that. But, Bedazzled is a very near and dear film to my heart, and I hope more people see it. Even though Elliot was transformed into all these different outrageous characters, there is still a hint of the real Elliot underneath all of them. Watch this brilliant moment when he is the Colombian drug lord, and he cautiously buckles his seatbelt before heading to the shootout. There's another key moment for me in this film. Watch Fraser's performance here in this single take. Look at the range of emotions on his face when he learns he gets to keep his soul. Doing all this in one take is very hard to do. while Bedazzled is ultimately a morality play. It's not afraid of exploitation and time-tested Hollywood techniques to enhance the story. There are big-budget action sequences, explosions, stunts, car crashes, sex. These were all important ingredients for turning yet another retelling of Faust into a Hollywood blockbuster. So not only is Bedazzled a sexy retelling of Faust, but it's a story of a boy becoming a man. He thinks he knows what women want. Money, celebrity, power. But really it's the story of learning to be yourself, that you truly attract the right mate by what's on the inside. And for myself, I wish I had seen this movie much sooner. You know, I've been married 5 times, and I think I could have avoided some very expensive divorces. Now in the film, he makes many wishes and gets out of them because they get complicated. But what if you could stay in the wish? What if you made a bargain with the devil and you actually stayed in that reality? And does that ever happen? Well, I'd like to show you a clip now of one of my heroes and a very similar situation that he got himself in.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.